Hello and welcome to PMP training class. So today we are having two topics. One is project governance and the other is project compliance, more or less similar nature. So governance, when we talk about, it's about the processes, about the structures, about the frameworks that we should follow and we are provided with and ensure that we follow in order to achieve the project objectives, to produce the deliverables, to produce the products or services or the objectives of the project. So, whatever we are creating, there shall be some frameworks, some methods, some processes that um, we have to follow provided by the organization that are in alignment with the organizational strategic and organizational goals. So the governance is too much of governance is always not good. It may annoy everybody that follow this, follow that, use this tool. So there should be a right balance of governance when it comes to governance of a project. However, it's a continuous activity that a project manager has to ensure the governance is in place throughout the project. So it means that it's kind of a self audit. Are we following the processes that we choose, the organization imposed, or the regulations that are there related to the work that we do? So it's more or less, are we compliant? And the structures therein help us actually to achieve our project objectives. So, as I said, how much of governance is good? So, too much governance is not good because too much governance will annoy the stakeholders. Okay, so if you require compliance uh, from the governance point of view, from all the stakeholders strictly, I would say that it will annoy them. So, but too relaxed governance will also, things will start to lose um, from your hand and time will start to lose from your hand. So, if there is no strict governance or at least there is no governance at all, then also the things will not be able to achieve. So, governance should be there to ensure that you timely achieve your objectives and you provide the right support needed at the right time. You highlight the right issue that is required to be escalated once it is beyond your control. Once it is beyond your area of influence, you can't do much. So escalate to the upper level, and governance structures are there to support you in doing so. You are doing good for the project because you are buying in the support from the governance processes structures. So you will escalate to a right process the issues that are beyond your control. So governance will provide you that process, that what is the process of escalation, how we can demand for more resources, how we can demand for more budget, or if there is any change that need to be approved. So all these processes actually typically will be defined and put in place by the governance teams. So governance is already there in most of the organization and it is established by PMO department. It comes in your rescue for all the issues related to changes, that how you will manage the changes in the projects, how you will manage the communications across the projects, what kind of documentation you will be doing, any decision making support, any internal and external stakeholders alignments. You will be asked to do the analysis of the changes, present it to the change control board, and how you get the changes approved which are beyond your own area of approval. So you need higher management approval. So you follow that approval cycle, approval processes, any risks and the issues that are identified and resolution is required. So if you need to escalate to get the issues resolved, then also you need to find the last resort, how you will be able to do it. if it is beyond your control. And also governance provide you the guidelines at the gate reviews, at the planned, at the end of the deliverables, at the end of the phase, if you need to start the next phase or no, are we good to go ahead with the next phase? These are the go no go decisions, because you may stop a project here, you may discontinue the project at this phase, at the end of this phase, or you may start another phase. The decision has to be taken, but uh, what is the why we should stop, we should not proceed, and why we should proceed. So all these decisions have to be justified. And so at the end, at the stage gate reviews, you have the proper governance, you have the review of the governance board, steering committee, and they will decide, they will take a call. But you have to provide as a PM all the data that will help them in the decision making. Okay. Furthermore, you also need to continuously align with the organizational objectives. So guidelines will be provided by the governance, that how you can align your project with the organizational strategy as well as organizational objectives. Plus, governance will also support you in providing the guidance on which development methodology you should choose. As we learned in the last lecture, the typical predictive methodologies, and we have talked about various agile methodologies, all the development approaches that we talked about. Plus, governance also involves the organizations in which we work, their structure, the governance structure. The organization which we work may have projectized structure, may have functional structure. Yeah. More or less, we should be knowing who is doing what in the organization, what are the levels of hierarchies, and how many hierarchies are there in order to get the final approvals, in order to get the project decisions. So it's important for you to start at the project level and then reach to the program manager. Then you should be able to reach to the PMO level. Then you should be able to ask if the support is required from the steering committee, from the board. Even you should know what are the structures up in the upper hierarchy, and all the roles should be defined, that who will do what. So sponsor will fund the project. However, the decision making has to be taken jointly by the steering committee, and who is part of the steering committee. So the project manager has to ensure that the governance is in place so that the project decisions can be taken, and the structure of the governance is decided upfront by the PM. So how governance happens in the adaptive projects? In the adaptive projects, the governance is to ensure that we are following the release schedule, we are following the iterations. The iterations are giving us the results, and also there is a monitoring, real-time monitoring of the velocity, daily stand-up, what are the impediments that are being resolved. So there are various metrics that help us in ensuring that the governance is in place for the adopted projects. Governance board involved the steering committee, or we may call it a steering committee or a governance board or a project board, but it is group of managers, senior VPs, project directors, project manager, and all the higher management that is involved in the governance of the project, from the issue and escalation standpoint, from the risk and mitigation standpoint, from the decision making standpoint. So as a PM, you have to update them the status, project highlights, key highlights, um, what are the highs and lows of the project during the last meeting that we met, since we met, and what is the progress so far. And you have to show them the risks that are there, still issues that are there which need their attention, and are we meeting our project goals? Are we confident? What is our confidence interval? What is our confidence level of meeting the project objective. So if there is any risk that you see that we will not be able to meet our project deadline or deliverable deadline or nearest milestone, that you need to highlight that what is the risk, what is stopping us, how we can mitigate it with the proper mitigation. How you can mitigate it, you need to put up a plan, that there is a mitigation plan in place. And still, if there are some issues beyond your control, even after mitigation, you have to highlight so that transparency is there, that management is aware that you have taken the necessary steps and you have mitigated the risks. However, if there is something which requires still their support, then they should be there to help you out. So as part of the exercise, you may think of your own organization where you work in, and your what is your experience by working with these steering committees or the project boards, what kind of issues you have taken to them, what kind of support you have sought from them. So you should ask yourself that if there is any governance that in place, then how helpful it was for your projects. And if there was no governance in place, then how did you suffer without a governance in place? So you will understand the value and realize the value of the governance. So how often a project manager should ask for the governance to support? So see, if the issue is beyond the tolerance level, then he must escalate. But if the issue is under the tolerance level and it can be resolved internally by the team, by collaboration, by confronting the issue, by identifying the root causes, then he should not be escalating unnecessarily to the uh, project governance structure, or the governance or the project board. So if there is issue beyond the tolerance level, beyond the project manager capacity to resolve or the team capacity to resolve themselves, then he must escalate and seek the support from the governance board. We've been talking about recognizing, evaluating, and responding to the system interactions and the system thinking. So, how the governance works that during the project's life cycle, so there is a value delivery, and there is a value delivery embedded between at the end of the project life cycle and during the project life cycle. So, to enable the smooth workflows, manage issues, and support decision making, we have to ensure that value delivery as the product of life cycle, value delivery embedded in the product life cycle. So governance and the life cycle is a holistic approach, as a systematic approach. So governance system works along with the value delivery system during the project life cycle. So it is one layer above you, where you do not necessarily need to go to that structure, but the structure does exist. And if there is a requirement, uh, if there is a delivery which is impacted, and the things are external to the project, where you are not having such an influence that the governance board is having the influence, then, and if your delivery can be expedited by taking a call to the governance board, then you must escalate the issues to the governance board for asking for the support. But however, do your due diligence, do your collaborate with your team, try to resolve the issues at your end. But if the issues go beyond your level of control, then you must escalate. Okay. So let's compare the governance in this predictive projects as well as the adaptive projects. So what happens during the predictive projects, that we have a one phase project, or we may have a multiple phase project. So if it is a project that need to be divided into a phase approach, maybe one or two or three phases, still it is a predictive approach. Still we have a scope which is very well defined, but we just split the project into three phases. So governance will come in place when we will finish a phase, and then we have a phase review meeting, and then we are showing the deliverables to the management. And if they are satisfied with the quality of the work, they may authorize the initiation of the second phase of the project. So we call these phase gates as the kill points. So kill point, it may be a kill point because they may stop the project altogether. So they may kill the next phases which are coming. So these are called governance gates. So in Agile, we do the release planning and we split the whole project into releases. Just like in the predictive, we do the phased approach sometimes, and we have the phases approach. So in Agile, we have releases, and each release we have various iterations. So at the end of each iteration, we have the review. We call it sprint demo. So on in all those reviews, we gather the feedback for the improvement, and we always work towards customer, and we show them at the end of the each iteration we show some valuable features to the customer and ask for the feedback. In such a product which has minimum features, just introduce for the customer to try and get confidence on the product, that if it is workable product. This is called minimal viable product. That is a working model. It has few features, but it is a working model, and it is there for the to give the confidence to the customer. So so that customer can give you the feedback that what did he like about the product and what he would like more in the product, so you can proceed to take the product to the next level. So that basic bare bone feature of the project is called minimal viable project, minimal viable uh, product. When we do project in the phases, we have various approaches. We can do projects in the sequential phase. We can split the whole scope into various series of phases which are sequential in nature, one after another. So if you have a large project of 3 years, you can split it into 3 projects of each 1 year each, and you can divide the scope into three different categories, and you can do these phases in sequence or in parallel, depending on how many resources will be involved. So if you are doing 2 phases in parallel, definitely you should have more resources, because at each time you will need two different type of resources to work together on different phases. So more we do in sequential fashion, we can reutilize the resources. However, if same kind of phases are done in parallel, then we must have more resources in place. So phases can be in sequence with each other. So A, B, C, 3 phases are there. They can be in sequence with each other. So one followed by another. So A is finished, then B will be started. B will finish, then C will be started. Otherwise, we may have A, B in sequence. However, we may have C in parallel um, with B, which means that we have a parallel relationship between 2 phases. So there can be parallel, mean there can be start to start relationship, or there can be a slightly overlapping relationship where we may begin one phase. However, at the end or towards the end of the phase, we start another phase, but meanwhile, the phase one is still in progress. So the relationship can be sequential or overlapping. In overlapping, we can have a parallel overlap, which is start to start, both are starting together, or we may have delayed overlap, which is just an overlap. So we may begin later towards the end of the finishing of the phase. We may start an early start another phase. Okay. So when we apply governance to the predictive projects, so we apply at the beginning of a phase or towards the end of the phase. So if we apply at the beginning of the phase, what is important? So we need to ensure that whatever assumptions that we are taking up to start the phase, these are valid, these are true, because most of the assumptions that we have, these turn up into the risks. Secondly, if we are doing the governance at the end of the project, we need to see what are the key deliverables which are produced. And we need to ensure the completeness and effectiveness and the acceptance is there to the deliverables from all the stakeholders. So this is what a governance role is. That governance is ensuring that what we are delivering is of value, and at least it ensures it is complete, it is accepted, and it is ensuring that are we aware of the right assumptions? Are we aware of the risks that we may see in the future? So governance is the third eye, which actually inspects, and it which actually foresees what we may not see, okay, what we may be overlooking. So it's a management oversight. However, it does help us in the beginning of the phase or towards the end of the phase by ensuring that what is being delivered, is it complete, is it accepted, and during the or in the start, asking the right questions, asking the right questions to to put on the surface what are the right assumptions, right what are the risks that are there. If we are not aware, then governance will ask right questions which will put forth the risk that we may have during the project. So if we have huge risks which are encountered, deliverables are no longer needed or requirements change, a phase or a project might be terminated. So that's a key reason why the projects fail to continue, because we might have a big miss. We might have a deliverable which is missed, and a key go to market target is missed. So we don't need the product anymore because the customer might go towards the competitor product which is already available. So we were trying to be in the market before our competitor, but if competitor has launched the initiative, the product before us, then we may not need to go into the market. So that's a huge risk. Definitely, we will not be able to capture the market. So why projects are early terminated? Because they fail to satisfy the business case. Remember, a business case for the project should always be valid during or in the start, during or middle, or at the end of the project. The moment we fail to seize the business case, there's no use of investing more organizational resources on a project that is deemed to be failed. So by governance, we have covered our two objectives from our exam content outline. So there will be a couple of questions made around these scenarios. So what we discuss so far is that determine appropriate governance for a project, and we have determined the escalation paths and the thresholds, when we should escalate, when the things are beyond the tolerance level, we should escalate to the governance mode. Then we will start our next topic. So we are done with the project governance. So our next topic is project compliance. Okay, so I would take 5 minutes break and then we will start this. What do you think?